for WWE NXT. They have the Capitol Wrestling Center, giving them the Thunderdome big-time vibe. Big matches, follow-up, and so much more. We're going to get your comments on screen. I'm Kevin Kellam, but more importantly, this is WrestleZone. What's up, everybody? Get your comments on screen with us following tonight's NXT Takeover, and what a banger it was. NXT 31, the first one from what is dubbed the new Capitol Wrestling Center. It had a lot of different vibes to it. They also announced some other big things, but you know what? Announcement, marketing, we get lost in all that, but we got some great wrestling tonight. We got some really, really great wrestling tonight. I'll cover all of this with you. Your comments on screen, completely interactive and live, unlike any other wrestling podcast. The most interactive wrestling podcast. No super chats. If you're with us on YouTube, you don't have to pay to get your comments on screen. Just start firing them off, all right? If you're with us on Facebook, you don't have to pay to do that either, all right? No Patreons, just jump right in. We're going to cover all of it. John Clark with me from the news desk of WrestleZone. John, we got ourselves a banger tonight, didn't we? This was a really great show.
Yeah.
All right. It was just, we said a good one. I was expecting a little bit more there, John. Can you hear me? Are you?
Yeah, I thought you had me on mute.
That's all right. No, that's all right. You're good. You're good to go, man. Overall thoughts coming out of the show.
Very good and lived up to the expectations, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited to see how they build off of tonight's events for sure.
Yeah, I thought this was an absolutely fantastic show, like top to bottom. But they only did 5 matches. So you had 5. So you had 5 matches. This show started at 6. It's about 8:30 Central. So that's 2.5 hours. So every single match felt like a big pay-per-view, almost like everyone felt like I wouldn't say everyone felt like a main event, but everyone felt like a pay-per-view match. And you can say, oh, pay-per-view is this or it's not that. Like, this felt like a pay-per-view. This felt like a big-time show. Obviously, a lot of people talking about them announcing the return of Halloween Havoc. This will be on October 28th. This will be on television. So essentially, you get a special edition of the show with some extra theming and things like that. And then immediately people jump into the AEW argument. Well, Cody's over there and Dusty Rhodes' dad created, so AEW should have a... I know, it's ridiculous. They've owned the name for 20 years. Calm down, everybody. But we want to talk to you guys about what you think here. Jason Garcia saying, good show. Except I don't think Ridge Holland is ready for a big push too soon, in my opinion. We'll talk about him. He had a big involvement right there at the end of the show, right after the main event. Saul, who's with us on all the different shows, thank you so much for supporting the shows. He says, after so many years, it's back. Halloween Havoc is back. People happy they brought it back as well. Someone texting me now. Oh, I just gotta love how people have to call me when I'm doing something. I'm a popular guy, John. So let's get into it here. The main event was quite the banger. Finn Balor versus Kyle O'Reilly. They built this up effectively for a short term. They only had a little bit of time between the last takeover and when they even announced this to get to this match under some very challenging circumstances in the last show, where they put the title on Karrion Kross, who they had built up for months, only for him to get injured in the match, take the title off him, spend weeks kind of building up this short-term program, which was exciting, an Iron Man match on TV with multiple men, Balor winning a big one-on-one match, and then this gauntlet eliminator to get Kyle O'Reilly up. It really lends itself to NXT being the most wrestling-driven brand, where everything really gets told with consequence in the ring. If people are mad about 50-50 booking in wrestling and WWE and Raw and SmackDown, you don't get that on NXT. This was elevation. These guys were all elevated by big wins and titles and different things like that. And you got a hell of a match. If you're a fan of New Japan Pro Wrestling, this really reminded me a lot of New Japan. A lot of false finishes, a lot of guys pushing themselves to physical limits, to the point where at the end of the night, when they pull each other up and shake hands, it's like, yeah, I could believe that. You know, like these guys just put each other through hell.
And even the people that lose end up looking okay in the end. It's not like anybody looks like a devastating loss. All these matches were tough back and forth where the loser doesn't necessarily look any weaker than they did going into it.
But Kyle O'Reilly could not get past Finn Balor, though it looked like he was very close a handful of times. You know, if they get hardcore, bitter, jaded guys like you and I to believe at some point that Kyle O'Reilly is going to win this belt, you know, it's kind of shocking. I'm talking to Ross Berman, who's our New Japan Pro Wrestling expert, and I was texting with him through the show, and he just tells me I saw it more like one of those evolves or independent matches where they just said, let's go out there and hit each other, and they did. They beat the crap out of each other in this match. There were German suplexes. They were kicking each other.
Blood from the mouth.
I don't know if they were actually bleeding from the mouth. It may have been the blood capsule thing, but it was fitting. It worked. You know what I mean? I don't need everyone to actually bleed for it to be a part of the story. Both guys bleeding from the mouth. Both guys just sweating gallons. This was awesome. If you wanted gritty, violent wrestling, Finn Balor winning wasn't even the important part. You just got that match, and you got Kyle O'Reilly testing the main event and almost letting you know at some point it seems like he'll win that title.
Absolutely, but I don't necessarily think that's where they're going with this. I personally do believe this was just a one-off thing. However, I've been wrong before, as I thought that Roman Reigns and Jey Uso was also a one-time thing, and that's not. I think it all depends on when Cross is ready to come back. I think when he does come back, he'll instantly be back in the title picture, whenever that may be. So it'll be interesting to see. But I do think we do get some kind of championship match at Halloween Havoc, and I think it's going to be either Cross or, like you said, O'Reilly again, possibly.
It would be the right setting, Halloween Havoc, all the spooky vibes for a very spooky guy in carrying Cross to return. It would be custom built for him to come back, you know. And we did have a big return tonight, by the way. It wasn't who you were expecting. We'll talk about that in just a minute here. Calvin Vinch texting, giving 5 stars. Five of those Meltzer stars have been handed out. He's just throwing the stars out.
It would have been 6 if it was in the Tokyo Dome.
you beat me to it. You beat me to it there. We always do the 1 to 10 rating. That's our rating system here. And we'll do it for the overall show. But honestly, that was a great match. I saw Sam from the Sam and Jim Norton show on Sirius XM. He's part of the pre-show for NXT. He said this would be the match of the year. This is one of the best WWE matches I've seen this year. And NXT, no matter what people say, they get whipped in the ratings, people talk about the ratings. But if you want great quality in-ring wrestling, you got some tonight. You know, if you were an AEW fan and you watched the show and maybe you haven't been following NXT, you got a great show. If you're just somebody who's casual and you don't watch NXT, but I'll check in for the takeovers, this makes you think like, wow, I got to start checking out the TV show. I'm not blowing smoke up anyone's ass. This was a great show. This was overall top to bottom, effective booking. No one looked weak. Everyone looked strong, even people that lost matches. And it made you want to watch the next thing. How are they going to top that? How are they going to top that? And there wasn't a dud on the show. There wasn't a single match that made me feel like, oh, that didn't belong there. That wasn't right. I think almost every match went like 20 minutes plus. So there was nothing that felt like filler at all. You know, I don't even think they had that many. They didn't even have that many segments in between matches. I mean, we had the Halloween Havoc thing get mentioned.
Just really 2.
Yeah. So it was very short. It was very, very effective. You know, really, really enjoyed this here. Some people give it a 10 out of 10. Really enjoying it here.
Nice to see Vic and Wade back on commentary too. I thought that was nice.
Yeah, we did get that. We did have Vic Joseph in the Capitol Wrestling Center, which we'll talk about in a minute. Wade Barrett and Beth Phoenix delivering commentary remotely. You could tell that based on the kind of echo, or at least
not to mention when they show the commentator table and there's only 2 people there.
You know, but I mean, I think at this point people kind of know. Like, you know, they're there remotely.
Well, I don't necessarily think that they're trying to hide it. It's just not something they need to come out and say. You know, they don't need to announce this.
No. And I get it, you know, and some people have been surprised they haven't done that in major sports yet. You know, that you haven't. Why do you even need the commentators there if you can just do it all with TV and stuff like that too? So definitely other people chiming in, giving it a 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10 for me. That's what other fans are saying here. Other things, of course, let's talk about the women's match. This was the second and last match of the night. Io Shirai versus Candice LeRae. A lot of people thought this was the time for Candice LeRae, who's been the most talked about female signing for NXT in years, being brought over there and not winning big matches, getting featured recently, turning heel, no longer being the big sister, going up against Io Shirai, this monster puzzling talent from Japan who's had the belt for some time. People thought, all right, it's time to get the belt off her. She's had it for the summer, coming out of the WrestleMania season, so it's time to get it off Io. A lot of people thought maybe she was bound for the main roster. Didn't happen. They did a lot of back and forth here at the end with Johnny Gargano coming out, putting on the ref shirt. They did 2 different ref bumps. It was bordering on a little bit overbooked. It was getting there. And Io Shirai trying to do all the Gargano way things to cheat her way to the title, only to be bested by Io Shirai. This was a shocking. I was not expecting this, right, John?
Yeah, we talked the last couple of weeks about how if we thought any championship was going to change hands on the show, it would be this one. And I think up until the very end of the match, it still looked like that was going to happen. And then when it didn't, you kind of wondered, well, why? And then soon after, we really found out why.
Yeah, and that did make sense. And they used a lot of the new elements of the Capitol Wrestling Center, which I will tell you looks pretty good. We'll get more into that in just a minute here. And the first of 2 post-match little interruptions here, because as if we didn't get enough curveballs thrown at you. In 5 minutes, they threw 2 ref bumps, Johnny Gargano trying to interfere in the match, someone trying to hit her with a belt. They did a lot of things very quickly. It was pushing on it, but thankfully they got some respite between, all right, Io ended this match and won, and Candice is upset because she tried to cheat and wasn't successful. Toni Storm comes in on this big wraparound screen that looks great on camera. It looks really, really good on camera. Something that didn't look great on camera were fans jumping up and down in the foreground. They only had and these are fans, by the way. These look like wrestling fans.
It was a combination of family, friends, and legitimate fans that were specially invited to attend the show.
All right. Well, thank you for the insight on that. I was going to ask if you had any info on it.
Yeah.
You're always ahead of me on that.
It appears that it was the NXT regulars that always went to their winter park, and they are kind of like the first to be contacted with stuff like this. But
and when you contact people personally, you can ask them if they're tested too. There's a difference there. You can ask people like that. When you start, I'm telling you guys, if you start seeing real fans at wrestling shows, it's not anyone's going to be buying tickets. It's going to be people specifically for WWE. It's going to be people that they specifically recruit. And they're gonna John will be down, but John, they're gonna ask you if you got to swab up your nose and what
I'll swab up my nose 50 times in 1 hour.
they can pick all your boogers. But they had one fan in the foreground who kept taking off his mask and like drinking. It just distracted me. Toni Storm cut this great promo though, saying Tony Time will return. And it looked really cool, though. Once I settled into the promos, it looked really cool. What do you think? We're getting Toni Storm back in WWE NXT?
Yeah, I would assume something to do with her finally being able to get out of the UK back over to the States. Perfect time to build her into this. And I'll tell you what I really actually got out of this is I'm really hoping that this also leads to Pete Dunne coming back, and I really think that it will. I think that we're getting to that point where we're going to be able to see people come back. But as far as Toni Storm, specifically her coming back, I think it's great because we mentioned that the women's division was starting to look a lot better. And these returns we got tonight are just going to make it even better than it is, on Raw and SmackDown. I mean, NXT, I think, has the best women's division in wrestling right now, period.
That was a comment from Triple H. He commented about Io Shirai being a strong champion. He commented about Toni Storm once again rejoining the division. But there was yet another return that he had to tweet about tonight. And we had these green, mysterious promos, someone saying that they were returning to get the title that was rightfully theirs. A lot of people assumed that would be a male superstar who was not.
I gotta be honest, a lot of people did actually predict this right on Twitter that I saw. I was surprised.
Our very own Lavelle Porter was very keen on this one, and they never really showed you who this person was. You just saw that they were somebody underneath a helmet.
Yep.
And then you find out they're on a motorcycle, and this person drives in from this green, mysterious area, re-enters the scene with the motorcycle helmet on. It's obviously someone shorter, but still stockier and strong build. It was Ember Moon. She had her tour of duty on, I believe, she did a little bit of time on SmackDown, but mostly we saw her on Monday Night Raw. And now really she's back in NXT. Yeah, but that happens. It happens. Some people are a better fit in NXT. And she looked very excited to be on that ramp at the Capitol Wrestling Center. And she is now back in NXT. So, I mean, that is a really good insurgence of talent in just a short amount of time.
It's been over a year now since we've seen her last.
Yeah. A lot of people feeling at Mia Lee, giving the smiley faces here for Tony and Ember appearing on the show. A lot of people sounding off on that. And a lot of people with different takes here about what is coming on here. A lot of people surprised about this. Other people already want to see a triple threat with Ember, Mio, and Tony. So we'll see what happens here. And big, strong words here from Triple H on Twitter during the show saying that they have the premier women's division in all of wrestling right now.
Are they wrong? Is he wrong?
I don't know if he's wrong. I mean, you could say that Sasha Banks. You could say that Sasha Banks and Bayley are certainly bigger stars that maybe more fans care about. But in terms of big match delivery, Io Shirai is very bankable. You have Ronda on the shelf. Ronda Rousey's on the shelf. Becky Lynch is on the shelf for who knows how long. Charlotte Flair could show up on Raw or SmackDown any day now. From what we heard, what we know.
I mean, we do have a draft. The list goes on with women that we've lost. I mean, some people consider the Bella Twins big names. Paige is a big name. There's been so many women over the years that it's not really their decision. They just get hurt, they get pregnant, or whatever, and they just have to go.
Yeah, and life changes, and I think that's a little bit more of a challenging thing. For other different people coming into the sport, like it's just the way it is. And also
the males and the females, really, because the males can still stick around.
That's not like a sexist statement at all. There's just I've talked to women in the industry. They don't want to wrestle. Some of them, a majority of them that I speak to, don't want to wrestle past a certain time. They want to be involved in the business, but being at the forefront of it, it's different.
They want
to
have
a different lifestyle
change. Too,
but yeah, and having a family is completely different too. But I'm excited. Ember Moon, Tony, in this mix. Candice LeRae is still there.
What do you think they do? I mean, do you think one of them gets an opportunity? Do they automatically jump into a triple threat fatal 4-way type thing?
It's exciting to see what the possibilities are. I don't know. And I think for me, watching it and doing these podcasts all the time, I'm always supposed to have an answer what they're going to do. Not knowing sometimes and being excited to see what it's going to be is the funnest part for me. When you can throw the suspense at me, and the suspense is my prediction going to be right? My prediction is, what are you going to do? And just I'm expecting good things. It's how good it's going to be, not whether or not it's going to be good. And when you can build that up, it's really good. And takeovers have an expectation, and they usually tend to deliver on them. And this show did that. I thought Candice LeRae and Io Shirai had a good match. I didn't think it was the best match on the show, but that's not taking anything away from it, because there was a lot of great wrestling on this show. A lot of great in the ring wrestling. Got to talk about this. A match that I think maybe some people were sleeping on. You think 205 Live, people think it's the bastard brand of WWE, and I'm not saying it because it's bad. I'm saying it just because people overlook it. They overlook it. And there are guys there that are very, very talented, world-class talents that wrestle at a pace that fans love, but there's just so much WWE sometimes. They're like, I just can't, And I think integrating the brand in NXT was a smart thing to do. Having these guys on takeover shows, I think, is a smart thing to do. And it's the most international brand they have in WWE. And part of that is Santos Escobar, a huge Latin American superstar, as your champion. And him taking on Swerve Scott, a guy who's pinned him twice, but hasn't pinned him in a title match. It's very good, compelling, sports-oriented wrestling. And they had themselves a banger of a match. Swerve Scott really tested him. He was the first guy to kick out of the Phantom Driver, protecting finishes. How about that, John? People not kicking out of finishing moves, all right? He kicked out of this move, and it was a big deal, and you could tell it was treated like a big deal, and it felt like a big deal, which is kind of hard to do with the simulated half audience, whatever they have here. I love this match. It was really good. Santos Escobar still winning with some interference and different things. Of course, he had some help as well from another superstar with 205 Live, whose name I immediately forgot. I don't have it in my notes here. And so it was a fun match. I mean, absolutely fantastic. I hate how people sleep on 205 Live, because it's a really good brand. And whenever I get to catch up with it, I'll watch like 2 or 3 hours of it. Sometimes on like a Sunday afternoon.
I feel like you're calling me out.
Well, I'm calling you out, John. I'm calling you. You are 005. That's
when you go to a SmackDown in person, it's just like, as soon as SmackDown ends, it's like everybody just is gone. Like nobody cares about 205 Live, and it's like, I feel guilty. I mean, I stay. Don't get me wrong. I stay, but
Mhm.
I don't watch it if I don't have to. If that makes sense.
They
Like
should put it on before the show. They should
they
just
like
tape
they
it
did
before
in
the
the
show.
Thunderdome. They did for
Yeah,
SmackDown in the Thunderdome, and now the
tape it.
news came out today. They're moving 205 Live with NXT, and
Smart move.
yeah, I mean,
It's
yeah.
205 Live. When you put those 205 Live matches in front of NXT crowds or an NXT vibe, it's better. It's a better fit. It's a hardcore brand. That's what NXT is. It's designed for like that subsection of fans that will
Well, I
go to
will agree with
everything.
you. People definitely did sleep on this match, and it definitely did deliver more than people thought it would. I wouldn't call this the worst match of the night, really. I thought
No,
it was pretty good.
and this is one of the better ones. Like if you're like, oh, you got to watch. I can't watch the whole show. What do I actually have to see? This is one of those two matches you have to see. You have to see this match. Like Swerve went up a level. Santos proved that title is something that people should want to win and want to go after. Him having a goon squad that was effective about it. His entrance with the mask and everything felt big time. It's takeover. Add more to it. You got more of it. And Swerve is just one of those guys that people have always said is going to be something special and has now delivered a special performance. And like I said, he didn't win. Our very own Bill Pritchard is texting in saying it looks like he'll stick around as part of the Ridge Holland stuff, but stranger things have happened here. Yeah, it does look like Adam Cole is not going anywhere. And we mentioned the Kyle O'Reilly Finn Balor match. We zip back to the end of the night. Ridge Holland, the big bruiser from the UK, ends the night. The entire pay-per-view ends with
Very
him just
surprising.
slopping Adam Cole over the barrier and dropping him at the feet of Kyle O'Reilly, still reeling from his title loss. Undisputed Era runs out. They're checking on him, and Ridge Holland just walks away. A surprising move. Ridge Holland was featured recently on television, but didn't have anything on the pay-per-view. Was wrecking people in kind of glorified jobber matches.
I love when they're out there tending to him. They look at Finn Balor and ask him like, "What happened? Like it was his fault or something." Like he had nothing to do with this, and I think that this is building towards something that we don't know. I don't think it's just the blatant obvious of an Adam Cole versus Ridge Holland thing. I think there's something more behind this that we're going to find out the next couple weeks.
Yeah, definitely other people text in here. Saul following up here. Big Calf John, big question. The night Adam Cole, one of the superstars in the draft, does this mean he's bound for the draft? No, I think if Adam Cole got laid out like this, he has something to avenge. So maybe we don't see him leave NXT right away. You know what? But that isn't to say he can't be drafted. We've seen other superstars have that where they get drafted. Another thing is we have the Hell in a Cell in a few weeks. So we're gonna have maybe some matches involving people going to different brands, but they still have to finish their feud.
I have a few names on my list of who I think is going to get drafted, and Adam Cole is not one of them right now.
I certainly think NXT is going to be dipped into. Triple H on the media call for that this week. He kind of alluded that NXT was a separate thing, but didn't flat out say it.
I mean, obviously, we always get that 3 or 4 people that are always, drafted from NXT to the main roster. But I wouldn't be surprised if for the first time ever we see somebody get drafted to NXT this year. We haven't really seen
The thing is,
that.
they haven't said that NXT is a part of the draft, though. So I think that could be more of a surprise thing of somebody just showing up
the
on
supplemental
NXT
draft. The supplemental draft.
Or they do the draft on SmackDown, then they do it on Raw, and then they just tell you, you know what, we're going to do one on NXT. And here's an NXT.
Or they can do like say on Raw, just for an example, they could be like on Raw. Well, Bobby Roode has been drafted to NXT, and they can say that on Raw.
I think it'd be bigger if they just had an NXT episode where they told you some people from Raw or SmackDown are going to show up.
Yeah,
and you just don't know who it is.
Like they would have needed to advertise that by now. I think it's
true.
Too...
I agree. It's too late in the game, and they probably already.
I mean, you could still do it this week, I guess. I mean, because it's not till it starts this Friday. So
yeah,
you could do it on NXT next Wednesday. So you could still have this Wednesday to promote it.
Yeah, I think, and they could do that. And that also leaves some time between when they want to do this Halloween Havoc show at the end of the month.
Yeah.
So it's a big show. They have this Ridge Holland character. What do you think him inserting himself kind of into a main event title here? He's involved with Balor and Cole in the Undisputed Era now.
I've seen reactions, both positive and negative. Some people think, this guy could really be a big player, and some people have said, well, this is way too soon. But look, they did the same thing with Karrion Kross, and it worked out just fine. It doesn't matter how quickly you try to push somebody. It's how effective you are in doing it. And I think with Adam Cole. I mean, look what Adam Cole did to Pat McAfee in one night.
Yeah.
I mean, Adam Cole can get anybody over. And it's not just going to be one night. They're going to build this up over weeks. So I really think this is going to be successful.
Let's get into this. The Capitol Wrestling Center. This was revealed on social media today. We were told by Triple H, the mastermind of WWE NXT and a lot of different things in WWE, that this was going to be a new next level presentation for WWE. That this was going to be something that really elevated the brand, but we also knew it was going to be back at the Performance Center. Now, for fans watching week to week, WWE did stuff in the Performance Center, but it felt like a stopgap for them to get to the Thunderdome. And NXT was kind of left out of that elevated, big time LED screens wrapped around with fans streaming, FaceTiming into the arena from all around the world, and a dubbed in audio presentation, all these different things. I don't think anyone does television production for wrestling better than WWE. There's some things they do about it that are annoying. But the Thunderdome has really found its lane recently. And I think fans that are watching now, and it's been on TV for well over almost 2 months now, like
Just
it.
over one, yeah.
Yeah, I think fans that were against it at the beginning, the first few weeks, are now kind of on board with it. And some people I talked to that didn't like it are now like, you know what, I would like to be involved in that. And I've heard some fans say, keep some form of this when you can even bring fans back. So what we got tonight was a mixture of both. We got a mixture of what, as you mentioned, there were fans that were either friends and family, some selected fans, some fans that kept taking their masks off, as I mentioned during the show, which really aggravated me.
It was really cool. They had their little glass pods front and behind them. So, like, even if you did take it off, I know you're not supposed to, but it didn't really pose a risk to anybody.
At least to the wrestlers in the ring, at least to, hopefully at least to the wrestlers in the ring. There's aerosols and different things you can talk about in the air, but it's a Performance Center, and they've mentioned they're doing more air filtration and all these.
It's a warehouse.
It's a warehouse, but it looks like they really booted it out. It looks like there was a lot more space in there. They had a giant screen that looked like an arena Titantron screen. It wasn't small. It really filled the entire back end of the arena. It made the entrances look bigger. And then these giant LED wraparound screens, basically bringing a kind of retrofitted, smaller, much more darker, not nearly as bright version of what we see with the Thunderdome, and fans coming in. So basically they're using the Thunderdome technology to bring fans into NXT shows. It really filled out the shots. It was darker. I think I heard some of our own people on our own social media were saying, hey, why don't they make it all one tone of color? Like it would kind of fit in more. But I liked it. I thought this was really cool. It felt different from Thunderdome, but it gave you enough of that extra muscle, that extra sense of, yes, there are people watching this. There's a communal sense of the show.
Felt like NXT.
Yeah. It felt like, it felt as close as you can do. You know what I mean? And, Eric Bischoff saying he was a fan of Thunderdome, that he thought this is the best you can make. You got lemons, make lemonade. You got chicken shit, make chicken salad. This was good. It felt good. The name Capitol Wrestling is odd, but I mean, I get it. It's the history.
I mean, people don't realize that before the pandemic, when times were normal, NXT was only getting like 300 people for a recording anyway. They didn't have that much room.
But it was a really like underground punk rock crowd.
Yes.
Like they were a crowd that was rocking. They were on board,
Yes. And I think that what they did tonight is going to be the perfect way to, I guess, hold over until you can get more fans back in a bigger capacity. If they're going to keep recording in the PC for now, though, I mean, we've seen the inside of that thing. They really can't. I mean, they did an NXT special there with fans right before the pandemic. They can't really have that many people in there.
Yeah, true. And you do have to hope for the best and hope everyone's healthy. Florida is a different situation. They obviously have much more looser regulations. And, we're looking here in a couple of weeks that WWE's time in the Performance Center could it be expanded?
Doesn't look like it.
Are we going to see Raw and SmackDown go in there? Because their time at the Amway Center is done at the end of the month. We don't know. We don't know what WWE's doing with Raw and SmackDown and major pay-per-views past the end of October, or they're going to extend that agreement with the Amway Center in Orlando, Florida, where the Thunderdome is. So that all aside, the name Capitol Wrestling, this was kind of mentioned in the opening of the show. They showed you letters and different statements from the Capitol Wrestling Company, which is basically the precursor to WWF, WWE. It was the Worldwide Wrestling Federation. This was related to Toots Montel and Vince McMahon Sr. And they mentioned They had a quote from him that said professional wrestling on the screen on a WWE show. The word professional wrestling. I heard a lot of fans being like, wow, they said that. They said that. My favorite tweet, Ross Berman, using a Simpsons quote. He just basically took the Ralph Wiggum. I saw Principal Skinner and Miss Krabappel in the closet, and they were making babies, and one of the babies looked at me. And I thought that was pretty funny, but he used like the same font. Yeah, it was interesting that I heard professional wrestling uttered on the sports entertainment show, WWE. But what are you gonna do? NXT is the closest to pro wrestling that they've ever done. Overall, thumbs up on the Capitol Wrestling Center. I liked it. They used things that they learned from the Thunderdome and adapted it. Live fans being at a show, and I'm not talking about wrestlers being at a show, like trainees and stuff like that. This was real fans. That added something to it too. That added a whole lot to it. They're still doing the dubbed-in chants, but it added quite a bit to it here. Let's talk about the rest of the card. Is there another match on the show that maybe caught your eye that you were really interested in? I know that a lot of people were talking about Velveteen Dream and Kushida tonight.
Yeah, and listen, we have to address that just because of how Triple H, made some comments about Velveteen Dream today. You can see all that on WrestleZone. Basically, just before we get into the match briefly, Triple H pretty much said that Velveteen Dream is too immature at a personal level to the fact that it affects him professionally. And obviously, it's an indirect, shot at him doing some things he shouldn't. And as it affects his personal life, obviously it will affect his professional life. Triple H and Dream both were quick to admit that, this year has not been the best year for them. And with Velveteen Dream, he was the face of the company. He was going to be the next big thing. And now there's kind of a question mark with him. So, but the match with Kushida itself, this was a hard-hitting Kushida in this match. He won. And I gotta be honest with you, nobody wanted Velveteen Dream to win this match.
No.
And the match was well wrestled and featured great storyline telling, and Kushida even kept attacking after the match, just, further putting things out. What did you think of the match?
I loved it. This is a match that Kushida needs. I mean, if you followed him from New Japan Pro Wrestling, many people refer to him as one of the best in-ring performers in the world. They started putting him in that Kenny Omega, Daniel Bryan, Randy Orton level of people. And coming over from New Japan, he's never had that same luster. And dare I say, has been lost in the mix. He had injuries. He had different things like that. But this is a guy who really gave up his life in Japan to come to the United States and become a superstar with WWE.
And he hasn't been.
And he hasn't been. And this is the first takeover he's really even been featured on, which is kind of crazy to think of.
Yeah.
But you have to admit, he really tested himself and pushed himself into the idea of being a WWE superstar in that way, where you have to frame everything to camera and pace it down. And it's interesting that he did with Velveteen Dream, who a lot of people think gives the WWE style the best delivery of it in terms of big selling, big entrance, big costumes.
I mean, it's true. I think anyway.
Yeah, it does. I mean, all things outside of the ring set aside. And also, he also brought up a lot of the same flair that people loved in him in Japan, the time splitter, the Marty McFly gear, and then come out and have a banger match.
This more aggressive personality he has was much needed for him to become the main event star they want him and think he should become. I think it's great.
Yeah, and it was great. And also kudos to Dream. Dream made him look like $1 million. Dream tried to do every conniving thing he could to get out of there. Wore the Doc Brown gear, and dyed the hair gray. Give it up. Dream will always try and dress himself up big for takeovers. He always tries and does something different. And it added to the match. They did a lot of interesting stuff. The way he sold the arm, his arm getting constantly worked on, and Dream putting his here's the thing, Kushida's the baby face. And
even if he's acting aggressive like this and attacking after matches, I don't think this doesn't necessarily make him a heel just because he's being aggressive.
No, because this is kind of the character that he was in Japan. This relentless, almost like a Wolverine. Like he's a relentless guy, and it lent itself to him. And like the way he did the spot where he put his arm in the steel steps and kicked that's what a heel would do on Raw or SmackDown. But in NXT, I think the rules are a little bit different. And he definitely pushed that. And I thought this was a great performance. And him winning made complete sense. And Dream selling it like, they said he's unhinged. He basically unhinged Velveteen Dream's shoulder. And I don't think Dream is in any position because of all that other stuff outside of the ring, which some people could say is illegal or not illegal. I'm not getting into it. But I'm saying it's affecting him, as Triple H even said, it's affecting his professional life. And I don't think fans could buy him if he won tonight. If he won that match tonight, oh boy, wrestling Twitter would have had a field day.
I think if we weren't dealing with all of this with Dream right now, I think that we see his name called to SmackDown this Friday. At this point, I do still think there's a small chance he does move to the main roster, but I don't know. What else do you do with him next if he stays in NXT? You're running out of options with him.
I don't know. I don't know either. And, our very own Robert DeFelice, you can check out the most recent episode on Thursday. Kudos to Robert and Dominic, by the way. I couldn't be here to do the show on Thursday. I got asked to be a part of AAW and their return to Fight.tv and internet pay-per-view on Thursday. We're going to be doing another one on the 29th. It was really, really cool. I filmed a bunch of promos. They're going to be coming out in the next few weeks. Go check those out on AAW socials. Got to work with Mance Warner, which was pretty cool. It was very, very fun. I got to keep his beer cold. So check those out. But I was very, very thankful that Robert made this point that you can say whatever you want about Dream, but what else do you do with this guy? If you're going to have him on NXT, like what else is there for him to do? And when you get to that point, yeah, I guess bringing him up to Raw or SmackDown would be a good idea. I guess it is. Storyline wise, it would be.
Personally, to me, he's simply too good of a talent to just let go out the door. Mm-hmm. Because in 4 or 5 years from now, when the dust does eventually settle, he has the potential to be a very big name again. And I think WWE wants to keep him and make that happen.
Definitely a take here. Other people, here we go. James Espanto Fernando Taguay. He's always calling into the show, always texting in. Thank you so much, James. Felt really good. I drank a good cold drink, kept the instrument strong to deliver tonight's James Fernando Espanto Fernando Taguay. He says, if you're WWE, do you let Dream go or do you give him time to grow up personally? Well, this personal stuff he's been accused of, a part of the Me Too movement and interactions with underage people. Some people say WWE hasn't examined this enough, and some of this stuff has come out on the internet. And some people say he did interact with me, but WWE didn't talk. There's a lot of hearsay about it. There's a lot of hearsay and speculation, but the court of public opinion is that he did something that people do not find acceptable, whether or not it's illegal, whether or not it crossed any legal bounds. Some people can say that's a gray area as well. What do you do with him, or do you give him time? I'm of the side that you put him on the shelf again. And I just think the stink is too strong. And I think there's some things that sometimes you can't book a storyline around and get away from in this day and age. And I'm not saying that because I like saying it. I'm saying because I think that's the reality of the situation. I think there's plenty of people who've been drafted to Raw or SmackDown, and we don't see them for a while. But we can know that if we do see them, they're going to be on Raw or SmackDown. Maybe that's the case here. And with the pandemic, I think there's plenty of people that are going to get lost in the shuffle naturally. And maybe that is the best option. That's just the way I feel right now. Maybe they have something compelling next week that could change my mind. But right now, I would put Dream on the shelf. He had a great performance tonight. I'll say that.
Yeah, and people already know how I feel. And if you don't know, I think that Velveteen Dream should be, business as usual with him. I think they've done their investigation. They've already determined, legally he did not do anything wrong. And I just think that fans, in today's day and age, when fans want something, they push until they get what they want. And I really think that they just need to move on.
All right. I'm not of the side. I want some resolution on this thing. You know what I mean? And I think that's a different thing in the way that people kind of consume media and stuff like that too, is they want some at least an ethical justification sometimes when they invest so much time in things. So I get that too. I get both sides of the story. So it's a testy thing. It's a testy thing, and they're dealing with this. Is another thing with Dream hasn't come out and defended himself.
And this comment that I see over here from John Kerby. If Dream gets fired or let go, then cancel culture wins again. And what's next? Yeah, well, I mean, what do they do? What does Dream do? Is he just never a wrestler? Or is he like a Leo Rush and Enzo type guy? Does he go to indies? Like, what does he do? It's his career, I mean,
true. I do think he would have a wrestling career outside of WWE if he wasn't there. So he's a talented enough guy. So it's very testy. I'm not saying these things are certain because nothing feels kind of certain right now. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
for lack of a better phrase. And that goes well beyond wrestling right now. If you follow the news this week, nothing feels certain. So it's definitely yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely been an interesting week in the world. So, and we're not going to get into politics, guys. We don't need to. So enjoy yourselves if you want to avoid that. Other matches on tonight's show on NXT, we had ourselves a hell of a banger and an opener with Damian Priest versus Johnny Gargano for the North American Championship. Surprising outcome. Johnny Gargano, I thought, would win this title, and him and Candice LeRae would leave with both titles. The power couple element was sold in the show. No one lost a belt, and that big, tall, 6'7" man was doing himself a lot of jumping spin kicks. I noticed that. Nearly got power bombed on the steel steps. A lot of back and forth action. Hell of an opening match.
Doesn't look like it was a good night for you predictions wise, but
no,
I do want to say that
I don't care.
I think the match that we were most split on was this one, because you were adamant that Johnny Gargano was going to win, and I was pretty sure that Priest, just won this belt. It was like last month where we talked about this big match, and I had said, this is Priest time to win and have the belt. And it's only been a month, and there's people saying, and you're one of them, I'm not calling you out, but you're like, well, he's like a one-and-done champion. It's Gargano's time. I really think they want Priest to be something big, and I think he's going to hold this title for quite a while.
I'm dead wrong. I don't mind it. I don't mind being dead wrong on something. And I also think he's kind of in that rare air of some people in WWE where
he's been there forever.
He can lose big matches. He can lose, like Daniel Bryan can go to the main event at WrestleMania and lose the main event, and people are still going to love him. And I'm still going to be a dork. I'm still going to be a dork buying the Yes is Back t-shirt.
Gargano's a lifer in NXT.
Yes. He's one of those like franchise players in it. He's what Randy Orton is to Raw or SmackDown.
The Miz.
Yeah. A very, very good comparison there too. Very, very strong
They're both
match.
from Cleveland too.
Oh yeah, you gotta love that. Ohio needs some love right now, So what do you think of this? Overall, strong show. I'm giving tonight's NXT Takeover 31 and 8.5. This is a great pay-per-view. Go watch it if you haven't seen. If you're just joining us or you're just listening for the results and stuff like that, you should still go watch this pay-per-view. Some really, really great matches. Really suggest you check out the Cruiserweight Championship match between Swerve Scott and Santos Escobar, and as well as the NXT Championship match between Kyle O'Reilly and the champion Finn Balor. Absolutely loved it. Great show.
Yeah, and I actually also give it an 8.5 tonight.
All right, not a 7.5, dog?
No, tonight's an 8.5, a little better than that. I thought it was pretty good. Look, and the only thing that I think could have made this better, and I know I say this a lot, but I think we need titles to change hands at least sometimes.
All right, so you thought the only annoying part was
we're coming off Clash of Champions and now a Takeover with a combined 12 titles and only one changed.
True.
And you could even argue that it didn't, because Sami Zayn, like I said, was already self-declared champion. So you could technically say that none out of 12 titles changed hands.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting period here for what's going on in wrestling. We have some news as well coming out of Impact Pro Wrestling. They presented their Victory Road event. We have full results of that now at WrestleZone.com. Comments from Colt Cabana about the return of his podcast and how he feels that wrestlers need to learn everything. If you're a fan of AEW, a new episode of Two Dynamite Dudes with Attitudes, our AEW exclusive show, looks at how awesome Ricky Starks and Darby Allin were on a show stealer this past week on Dynamite. A lot of content that you can download and listen to and consume on the WrestleZone podcast feed. We also have exclusive interviews up there with Mick Foley talking about his brand new movie, 12-Hour Shift, in which he plays a villain. Could you believe that Mick Foley could be a villain? He's so goddamn lovable now.
He could be anything he wants to be.
You're absolutely right. We also got news coming out of this week's SmackDown as it appears we will once again get Roman Reigns versus his cousin, Jey Uso, and they will do it. Family members. Hell in a Cell. We'll only get 2 Hell in a Cell matches on the pay-per-view, it looks like. I'm surprised they went with this so soon. I mean, it makes sense storyline-wise coming out of Clash of Champions. That was such a well-received segment at the end.
There's something bigger happening here. And I do believe what the rumor mill has been saying, that the end point of this feud is the Usos and Roman Reigns being the ultimate Samoan stable that absolutely run train on everybody.
So you're saying that the Usos kind of align themselves with Roman Reigns at some point?
So we heard on SmackDown Roman Reigns saying how if you accept this match, it's going to be the biggest stakes that you've ever had. And I don't know what that's going to be, but I think it somehow is going to tie into them forming some kind of a team together. The Shield 2.0.
They've done the Bloodline before. They've done the three of them before in WWE, and that's been. I think people have been interested in that.
They just need Tamina Snuka to join them, and then they can have a woman too.
It's an easy get. They aren't doing a whole lot with her. It's an easy get. I think I believe she is available. I'm of the thought that they had such a reaction to the Roman Reigns angle they pulled at Clash of Champions with him cemently saying, I'm now a villain, and I'm going to beat up my own family and make them say I'm greater and do all these different things. And the rumor mill flew out of the roost that, we're going to get The Rock versus, if Roman's doing that,
we might.
Yeah. If they do, always, guys, if you get The Rock, you're only getting him at one of the biggest shows of the year. It's not going to be Hell in a Cell with a couple.
Well, you'll get him at a few others leading up to it, probably. But
sure. Appearances
actually wrestling. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you'll get him on television. But
What if they have him win the championship? They've done it before. Maybe he does wrestle 2 or 3 pay-per-views.
It certainly would be something to
He's his own boss. He'll do it.
Yeah, and also The Rock can do whatever he wants now. Okay, he's endorsing presidential candidates and getting time from them.
He owns a football league.
He's got this tequila coming out. He's got the XFL coming out. He's got big time movies coming out. He beat COVID. Come on, The Rock can't be stopped. And he also said if he comes back for another big match, likely that
would be with Roman.
It would be with Roman. Is this just another mount? Is this just another cliff on the mountain to get to Roman versus Rock? You think if they're going there?
I think originally it was just to get Roman. Basically, they want to get him as much heat as they can when fans are back in the stands. And to me, that is easy. That's easy. I already booed him every time I saw him anyway. And
The Rock is a ticket seller. You know what I mean? Casual people will come out.
Well, yeah.
And I'm just saying about 8 years ago when he came back and was just doing appearances on television and he wasn't even wrestling. That would really get people to buy tickets. They saw a difference in that. And you're going to need to bring people back to arenas.
This is what's going to happen. Roman Reigns drafted at NXT. The Rock comes to NXT, and they go on Wednesday nights.
Yeah, that would. If you're over in the Jacksonville office, I don't think you'd like to see that. And I've told people WWE has the capability of doing that. They have the capability of saying, "Hey,
big name." They have that button for the nuclear weapon, and whenever they press it, boom. But they're not pressing it because they don't feel like they have to.
And if they do,
they will.
Then they're really concerned.
If NXT starts pulling in 0.2 and AEW is 1.4 million, then it's okay, now we're in emergency mode now.
Hey, John Cena, are you available on a Wednesday?
Yeah.
Can you Snapchat into this
Undertaker,
match?
Batista?
Somebody, can you guys FaceTime into USA Network on Wednesdays? Something like that'll happen. But we're not there yet, guys. We're not there yet. Certainly that's where things are going now. We will return for you Monday after Monday Night Raw. John, I believe you're available. You going to be with me there, John?
I will be here tomorrow night with you live.
Another date. Our wrestling friendship grows and grows by the week, John.
Let's just hope Raw is better than it was last week.
Oh, yes. Let's definitely hope Raw was better than it was last week. We have certainly a good vibe with NXT and WWE coming off tonight, so I want to keep that going. And SmackDown was good, and Clash of Champions was good.
Raw's the dust.
Yeah, Raw. You were absolutely right. Yeah, and we had the bad COVID news last week, and they didn't have Underground. And absolutely. And we got Bobby Roode and Drew. That was good. But yeah, absolutely. I'm hoping for a better Raw this week. So you're listening to this on Monday. Hopefully you get a better Raw this week as well. We'll find out. Another thing is we're looking to add some new pop-up content during the day. So if you follow us on YouTube or Facebook, please, for the YouTube people, you like our channel, turn your notifications on. I know sometimes it's kind of annoying, but you'll know exactly when we go live with some breaking news videos that we're going to start doing. And those will be short videos. We won't go super in depth, but we'll get breaking news content you can watch and consume wherever you are. And these will be video only. We'll also do these over on Facebook. If you follow us and watch our shows on Facebook, a lot of you guys do. Thank you so much. like the page and follow it. That's the other thing. So you get the notifications as well as to exactly when we go live. And sometimes we schedule the shows out so you can kind of know, okay, I know when you guys are going to go live. We love all of our diehard viewers, the people you see popping up on screen, the Sauls, the James, the Hermans. All right. A lot of people, Laura, The Rock. All right. I love all of you guys. Also love all of our podcast fans. John, I've been telling you, our podcast numbers are starting to grow. They're not as great as I would like them to be, but God damn it, we're getting on some of these international charts. And
we're out here grinding.
We're out here grinding across the globe. All right. Getting into them RSS feeds. And all the different area codes. A new one has been added. You know that we are loving that we climb and keep ourselves in that top 100 Apple Sports podcast on the Mediterranean island nation of Cyprus. But Singapore can now be added to the list. Another spot where we've cracked into the top 100 on the Apple Sports podcast chart there. Thank you so much to all of our fans who are checking out the show there. If there's just a few of you, keep sharing the show. Give us a 5-star review. We're going to read some 5-star reviews from our Apple Sports podcast reviews. Go there, review the show. If you listen on Apple, if you listen on a different podcast app, Podcast Addict, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, a lot of different apps, Spotify, give us a review, share it with friends. And if you're listening, thank you so much. We appreciate that. We're going to start doing more things where your voices get involved in the show as well. So thank you guys so much for following all the content we're doing. Also, I'm going to be on pay-per-view yet again this week, John. I'm going to be doing another pay-per-view. I have a plug for this, but I want to know what's going on with you. When can people see your content on WrestleZone.com?
Today, Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. Eastern to 4 p.m. Eastern.
I got you on out here all day. I got you up here late at night on a Sunday. Wrestling
Twitter,
all day Sunday.
John R. Clark 12 on Twitter. Definitely check me out there. And then I am a part of the WrestleZone daily podcast here, Monday, Wednesday, and pay-per-view post shows.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that too. It really helps out here with filling out different things. I did AAW live last Thursday. Really, really great show. Mance Warner versus Jake Christ in the main event. This was a brawling main event. This was really, really crazy. We also had Matthew Justice versus Manders, and they did a Death Valley driver 20 foot high above the ring off a cherry picker through a door in the middle of the ring. The clip of this is up on Twitter. This is incredible. Go to aawrestling.com to get the next pay-per-view. We're going to be doing it. These are like 2.5 hours, 3-hour shows, and we're going to have another AAW live on October 29th. These are only $13. Only $13. So you want to get together safely with your friends, social distance, and get that hardcore wrestling vibe, crack a couple beers, and have a good time. I'll be on those shows. I'll be doing backstage interview stuff, trying to be as socially distant as I can with everything as well, wearing my mask the whole time. So don't worry, I'm trying to be responsible as well. And so are all the wrestlers around me too. I'm like for example, some people ask me, how are you doing this? When we do the promos, we're not doing like a million takes. Like I'm going to be around someone shortly, briefly, do it, and we're out. So trying to do everything as safely as I can. Thank you guys for supporting me as well, as I'll be doing the Milwaukee Comedy Festival this week in Milwaukee, Wisconsin at the Caps Pilot House, the Pabst Brewery in Milwaukee, Wisconsin on Thursday night. Some limited tickets are available. We can't sell out the whole venue, obviously, to keep social distancing. We're going to keep the tickets low. And get those tickets at MilwaukeeComedyFestival.com. Tell your friends in Milwaukee. Or here's the best part, John. I'm going to be on pay-per-view again. For $15, you can watch all of the stand-up comedy of the Milwaukee Comedy Festival. You can help out all the independent comedians that are doing this. Another thing, people think like we're not big-time comics. These aren't people with Netflix specials. This is indie wrestling. This is independent comedy. All right. So these are people that don't have agents, but are really, really funny. If you like me, there's a lot of my funny friends on the show. I'll be doing a show with Tim Brennan. So my show is Thursday, 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern. And that is going to be streaming $15. You get 9 stand-up comedy shows starting on from Wednesday this week through Sunday. Mary Mack, who's been on a bunch of different late night TV shows, she's going to be headlining the Sunday show. All of the shows are going to be streaming, professional production crews filming it. And it's really, really cool how some really creative people stepped up to do this. So if we can't fill out the place, well, we know that you can watch at home. If you support what I do, go to my Twitter at Kev Kellum. Links are going to be there. You guys can buy tickets and watch it anywhere in the world. $15, and there's a bunch of other shows that you can watch as well. So something fun for you to check out that isn't YouTube, another cat video, that isn't some depressing news on TV. We're gonna give you some real comedy. It's gonna be really, really funny. Maybe you can blow some milk out of your nose. I don't know why you'd be doing drinking milk. You shouldn't be drinking milk when you're watching comedy. But I'm just thinking, remember when you were in grade school, your mates would spit milk out of their nose. If you do that, you've done good. That's a good laugh. It's a good gag if you get somebody to spit milk out of their nose.
True.
All right. So we will be back tomorrow night after Monday Night Raw. Thank you so much for supporting the show. The final thing. I almost forgot. We're watching wrestling. We got all this bad news. People freaking out. They think it's the end of the world, but hopefully we stay safe. We keep our mask on. That vaccine comes, shots in the arm, and we're back at WrestleMania. When is that going to be? We don't know, but let's hope. Let's hope we're all there. All right. We can clear our minds. We're no longer anxious. We don't have this thing floating around us and scaring us, right? No. We get to do this one thing, John. This thing that we love. The bell rings. We boo the bad guy. We cheer the good guy. And what do we do, John Clark?
We enjoy the wrestling.
We